Alright, hello, welcome to the stream. This is a stream that has kind of not been planned, but it is, I thought it's a great time to do it now anyway, because I just like to talk about a few things in the stream itself, and then, we'll just have a good time, really. At least I plan to. So today we're doing a request from somebody. Driving the Class 43 on Northern Transpennine, we're going to be going from Manchester, Victoria to Leeds, which is probably going to be a nice journey. I've set up some AI trains to come our way. Hopefully by the time we get to Leeds we won't have to wait for any to leave. And I've given myself kind of a couple of minutes to set the train up, just a couple. So when I get somebody in the stream I will then begin the journey itself. And this is for Lucifer. Yeah, Lucifer, like the, you know, the devil. Yeah, okay. But yeah, we're doing a request. And what's very nice is that I like driving a Class 43. We're not going to be stopping at very many stations, only Huddersfield and Dewsbury, I think. And then it's just straight on to Leeds. It's going to be a while before we even stop, to be honest. We are going to be travelling at line speed, pretty much. Now, before I do begin, I'm going to take a moment, because I realise I've forgotten something. I'll be right back. Alright, I've returned. Welcome, Hope Diamond 101 and everyone else who has come by. Driving the Class 43 today, it might be a bit loud. I may have to turn the volume down on the settings because I did put it up for the 465. I don't know. It might be too loud. I know it's a bit loud in my ear. And then we'll just put it down a little bit. And we're hauling how many carriages? I think we're hauling about 4, and then we got the end unit, so technically 5 things. But yeah. The key is unlocked. Nice. Fantastic. Beyond engine off. We'll turn the engine off just before we go. And open the welcome final zone, also known as Danny. Open the doors, very nice. And it should be night technically because it's 7 in the morning and it says you should turn them on at about 8 o'clock is when you should turn the day headlamps on. Cab light, we will want that on, to be honest. We are going to be going through quite long tunnels, so we'll need that. Okay, the BOS DSD, fine, I'll put DSD on, because that will beep occasionally. Gauges are up, very nice. Don't know why I've got a driver's buzzer. I am the driver. Is it to buzz myself? Sounds legit. And I'll put the engine on, might as well. So you can hear it starting up. Very nice. Amazing. Right. So we're already here in Manchester. I'll just take the brakes off, put it into Welcome Music of Adam, also known as Spooky. I'll just try and refer to you as Spooky because that's kind of easier. Wipers will need on when we actually go forward. Train supplies on bright. Nice. De-icer, do we really need that on? Not really. There's no ice. And I've never actually been in a situation where I've needed to use that. DRA's there, we don't need that. Oh, we're rolling, are we? Okay. Everything in Northern Transpennine is either on a hill or it's flat, which is the... Oh, yeah, it is raining. So, wipers, rolling. We are rolling. Wipers, wiper speed. 75 should be enough. There we go. So, what did I want to say? Well, I didn't end up going for my dentist appointment. Well, I did go. I then sat in the chair and then went completely white, and that's not normal for me. I'm not the opposite to white, but I'm definitely not white. There's a 465 there coming in. Yeah, I couldn't go through with it, essentially, is what I'm trying to say. And that's a bit of a shame, because it then means that I have to go and see somebody at the dental institute to get the correct teeth removed. And that's going to take some time to organise, and this happened on Friday, therefore the next 2 days are not going to be working days, which means I'm not going to get a letter about it until Monday. Now hopefully I get seen to very soon, and I hope I at least get to talk to my therapist or somebody once. Max throttle, because we're going up a hill. It's all hills. So yeah, I have to sort that out. And then when that's done, then I won't be able to talk, which is a bit annoying. I don't want to be put under for that. I don't think I need to be. I can be awake for it. It's just at the time I was not great. I imagine if I was a bit what's the word I'm looking for? If I was a bit more frightened, I probably would have fainted, and that's not good. So we'll just see what happens with that, shall we? So that does mean I'll get a few more days to basically make videos where I'm talking, which is always nice, because then it lets me actually say what's on my mind. It is quite a dreary day in-game because it's raining. However, I decided to put it with rain because that's different to if we didn't have any rain. Anyway, I hope we're all well this evening. I say this evening, it's early morning for me. And this stream wasn't exactly planned. I did want to do it at some point. It's raining here in Orlando, Florida. Probably a bit heavier than this, judging by the tropical climate over there. However, why do you want me to slow down to 20? Oh, because of... Right. Because of Miles platting. This bloody station that's just in the way. Let's make it go at 20 miles an hour through here. Yes. Yeah, I would have thought it would be raining quite heavily in Florida. Because of where it is. 28 degrees here, I'm ready for spring. 28 degrees... I can't convert Fahrenheit to degrees C. And that is an issue primarily with me and not with anybody else. Because I measure in degrees Celsius all the time. Because it kind of makes sense to me, because that's what I've been raised to measure things in. And I imagine that I could learn Fahrenheit. It's just that I'm never going to really need to use it. -2. Right, okay, -2. That is quite cold. It's probably that cold outside right now here. Because it's a winter night. However, I suppose at the end of the day I'm inside, so it's going to be warmer in here than it is out there. Either way, I'm glad that we all seem to be alright and nobody's complaining of extreme pain or anguish or anything like that. And as for where Lucifer is, who suggested this, I believe they're either busy at the moment by building a model, or they're... I don't know, they're tired maybe? I don't know. But I tell you what I have been doing. I spent the early morning yesterday, for me, I spent that time basically getting all the collectibles in Northern Transpennine. Not all of them, because there are newspapers which you collect, and there's also fallen trees which you can clear from the line. The only problem is they're not, they are scattered about, these trees, and it is very likely that you may have seen one along the journey, but when I'm driving I don't look at the side of the tracks. I've noticed there's some trees that seem to have fallen down. However, when I go up to them I probably discover that they're logs rather than trees, and when I go up to them it should clear them, but it doesn't, so I'm guessing that I've never actually seen one. And they are a bit hard to find. It was kind of a pain finding all of the route maps and posters, because I started doing that. I got a few stations. They are pretty much at every single station. It's just you pretty much get nothing for it except a trophy, really, which is a bit of a shame, to be honest. They really should introduce some kind of reward for collecting all those, because it is kind of a pain. And for most of that I drove the Class 465, which came out very recently. It's a very, very good train, and the response from the community is the same thing. It's a very, very good train. It's great, it's fun, and it's very easy to drive. That's DSD going off, by the way. That's not actually AWS. This route doesn't even have AWS magnets installed, which is kind of a bit of a shame, because I'm starting to wonder why they didn't put it on here. I'm pretty sure that Dovetail did their research, and back in the time period this was set in, 1983, this route didn't have AWS installed. I'm pretty sure they wouldn't have missed a detail like that. And nobody's ever said there should be AWS on this route, appropriate for the time period. No one's ever said that. But to me, it makes complete sense for it to have it, because I'm pretty sure this route wasn't just installed in 1983. I'm pretty sure that it was installed long before that. It had to have been. Morley Tunnel, which connects up ahead, close to Leeds, near where I am right now in real life. Thanks DSD. That was built in the 1930s at the very latest, but possibly the 20s. So why would they build a tunnel without a route to go under it? My guess is somebody somewhere just thought to themselves, you know what, do we really need AWS on this route, and decided to say no. Though to me it does make kind of sense, because this is a tricky route, because of all the inclines and all the hills and everything like that. I should know what it's like. I live around here. It's not exactly the flattest place in the world. Which sounds strange. Basically, everything is either on a hill. Well, everything is pretty much on a hill. There is nothing flat here. I've never seen anything flat. It's always inclined somehow. Everything is. Including the road outside. It goes up a hill. Very slightly. And all around me, all you can see are hills. And inclines and all the rest of it. You see fields that are on an incline, because it really is like that. Now that is a good thing, because it means that we'll never have flooding problems, because there's no flat ground for it to actually flood into. All of the floodwater goes down to South Yorkshire, which is relatively flat. And that's why they get lots of flooding down there. It's because it's quite flat. They also have a river that overflows constantly when it's flooding, so yeah, in fact the river is pretty much mostly the cause of the flooding to begin with, and all the rain, obviously, you know. That's why they have so many problems with flooding. Us up here will never have that problem, really. Unless global warming takes a sudden, turns itself up to 11, we'll never have problems with high quantities of water being anywhere near us. Also, I'm not slowing down at 15 miles an hour, I don't think so. Not in this thing. There's no need to slow down at 15 miles an hour up here. I don't know why they ever... Why did they have a limit here? Just check up ahead, what? No, there doesn't seem to be anything particularly tricky about this portion of track. I don't know, I might get there and realise that there is something quite tricky about it, and then, I don't know, fly off the rails. But I'm pretty sure, from experience, I could accelerate through here and just leave it. Maybe they meant this bit. Wowee. Yeah, this bit where it kind of turns a bit tighter, but we can stay on the line here, pretty much. Passing Staley Bridge, I believe? Yeah, Staley Bridge. Anyway, so a bit of a problem. Just a reminder, you can post questions and other things in the chat itself. You can do that. Totally allowed. All my videos are marked as not for kids. So never have a problem with swearing or talk about relatively adult topics. Obviously, don't psychologically abuse me, or anyone else for that matter, but talk, you can talk like normal adults, which, because I deliberately mark my content as not for kids, because I know at some point I'm going to swear. I just know it. I try not to, because it's considered rude. It's just, I know I will at some point. And to be honest, I think all adults swear at some point in their life. There's never been a single person who doesn't. Well, I should hope not, because then I'd be wrong, wouldn't I? Anyway, so yeah, you can post questions and I'll answer them in the chat if you want. I'll just keep rambling. I'm not really showing you many outside views, but here we go then. That's a very high bridge there. Oh, 166 going past. So, Dovetail Games is obviously the developer behind Train Sim World. And they are a good team. The only problem is that recently they've made a bit of a blunder. In fact, they've made two blunders that have kind of annoyed me. The first one is with Tees Valley Line, the whole route. The problem is that the passenger door operations pretty much don't work on it anymore because of the previous update that was meant to fix something with another route. So the problem has bled over into Tees Valley Line, and now they're going to have to fix that. Which, to be honest, I don't remember what it was exactly that they fixed in the previous update. I'm pretty sure it was something to do with maybe Long Island Railroad, because they said that there were a lot of things with that they wanted to improve or fix. And then somehow the problem has bled over into Tees Valley Line, or a problem. So they're going to need to fix that. It's the same problem that happens with Great Western Express, whereby you stop at a station, even though you've set it to have passenger operations, it doesn't actually prompt you to open the doors or lock them. It just sits there. And then you stop there. Obviously it marks down that you've stopped there, but then it doesn't ask you to open the doors, which it should do, because you clicked on passenger mode. Thereby you should be able to do that. That's how the game is supposed to work. But no, chose not to. And that kind of annoys me, because I did want to do a request on Tees Valley Line. I have one to do. But because I just went on it and then found out that had happened, I got not incredibly annoyed, not so annoyed that I want to strangle somebody, but quite annoyed because I thought that Tees Valley Line was kind of safe from the problem that was going on with Great Western Express. So I may have to wait. I won't wait forever for that, because I do want to get these done as soon as possible. So I may explain in the video or something that, yeah, it's not working as intended, and I can't really do much to stop that. I am drinking coffee, and for a moment it went down the wrong hole. Ooh. And now my eyes are watering, that's not good. 45 miles an hour limit up ahead. What? Why do you want me to... Oh, that. Is it that long tunnel? Yes, it is. I think so. There is quite a tricky tunnel. Yeah, there it is. That big long tunnel with the bit at the end that's very sharp. That's what knocked me out last time. I can probably speed up a bit. I'm not bothered about the points. It'll give me less points for going over the limit. In fact, it probably won't give me any. Though, yeah. So, that annoyed me, the problem with Teesville Line having a glitch about it. That's nice. What also annoyed me was Great Western Diesel Legends, which is a upcoming add-on. It's basically a DLC pack for Great Western Express, which is a very old route, but Dovetail decided they're going to trial something. And when I say they've decided, it means that they're going to be going through with it. Despite all the community saying don't go through with it, or could you change this about it, because this is a bit stupid. But they're just going to be releasing it once, and if it doesn't sell well at all, they probably won't even be trying to do the same thing again. Which is good news, which means they're probably not going to create something that has that much backlash again. But it also means that they won't be trialling what I think is a worthwhile idea. They've just done it in a silly way. That is... a lot of people are saying this is stupid and I don't like it. The DLC itself you have to pay for, and it's not like it's required to play the game. So you can just as easily not buy it. But the issue is that a lot of people were kind of, at the time, a bit excited when they saw the title of it. Dovetail does post the titles of upcoming DLCs in what they call the roadmap. It's basically them saying what they're going to be doing over the next, well, few months, basically. And in that roadmap they had the title 1970s Great Western DLC pack, which was a bit vague. And because it was vague, people started to speculate on what exactly would be in it. I thought, at the time, it would probably be the 1970s HST. So I thought it would be something like that, which is an excellent looking locomotive, and it's a lot better looking than this thing which I'm driving now. It's basically the old version of this, what I'm driving now. However, that's not the case. What it actually is, to quote them, this is the whole idea behind the pack. The whole idea behind the pack is to give players a new experience on content that they already own. However, that's a bit stupid for one reason and one reason only. It's stupid because a lot of people do own all of the locomotives that are actually in the pack itself. So with the pack you get a timetable for Great Western Express, and you get the locomotives that go along with it. You get the Class 101, the 08, and then you get the Class 52 in British Rail Blue, which is a fine looking locomotive, don't get me wrong. And it was one of the reasons that I was interested in it to begin with, because I heard they were going to put a 52 in it, and it's one of the locomotives that I just don't have. So I thought, oh, that'll be nice, I'll be able to pick that up. Yeah, it comes with a 101, it said that because the trophies were revealed at the same time. You know, the achievements, and you could kind of get a gist, because it says Class 101 and 52 in the trophies themselves. And I thought, oh, that'll be nice, because it'll be one that I don't have. However, when it came to revealing what else that they put in the pack, it already had a problem. It already had the problem that the 101 barely ran on Great Western Express, the original route. It had the problem of, this is recycled content essentially. It had the problem that the route itself was not appropriate for the time period of these locomotives. So it upset the purists. And it upset people who already have that content because they already paid for it way back when. So they would have already spent money buying the 101 and the 08, and to a lesser extent the 52, though it comes in a new livery, so it's technically a new thing. And yeah, it's pretty much upset everybody across the board somehow, in some way, shape or form, including me. I'm not a purist, and I don't care whether the locomotives match the route or not. To be perfectly honest, it's probably nicer that they don't match it, because then they're not so restricted with what they can release. But then, at the same time, what annoys me about it is I've already got the 101 and the 08. I already spent my money on getting those. In fact, I got the 101 twice, because it's in 2 separate DLCs already. Now it's going to be in the 3rd one. I don't like driving the 08. I think, to be brutally honest, it's just not my thing. I don't like it at all. I don't particularly like the 101. So to hear that I'm getting 2 trains that I've already got that I don't even like all that much, and the only new thing I'm getting is the 52, me personally, that's a bit crap. And the price tag is about £15, which is more than I paid for the Class 465, which I'm definitely going to be using a lot. So, yeah, does it sound like a good deal to you? Doesn't sound like one to me. And that's a bit of a shame. You know, if they had put the 70s grip HST in that pack, it would probably have gone on to be a winner. People would have probably bought it just because it had that in it. But no, they've done a bit silly things here. I can't explain why they thought that was a good idea. I get the idea behind it, offering a different experience, but I also know that people just don't like it. And yeah, I agree. I don't think they should like it. They don't like it, they don't like it. It's not a case of I will never buy it, because maybe one day I decide that £15 might be a worthwhile investment to get a train that I've wanted to drive since day one. I am paying about £3 or £4 more than I normally would for the 52, but the only reason that I'm paying that much is because I don't have West Somerset Railway, and I don't know why I'd even want West Somerset Railway. I can't think of any legitimate reason why I'd want it. It's nowhere near my area, it's down in Somerset obviously. It's a beautiful location. The only problem is, it's a preserved heritage railway site. And if you don't know the rules about preserved heritage railway sites in the UK, there are some stretches of line that are preserved by volunteers and charity organisations and all this, to send preserved locomotives down there to run on the line so that they can essentially make money from doing things like rail tours, where you get to go on old steam trains, old diesel trains. You know, it's an authentic experience from a time long forgotten. However, all heritage railway sites, because they're not part of the national network anymore, because they're not regulated by the same rules, jolly old government have decided that they put a 28 miles an hour speed limit on them. That's maximum speed. And West Somerset Railway, being a heritage site, that is the top speed on West Somerset. Oh, class 465 there. That is the top speed, 28 miles an hour. That's a crawl. I mean, I'm going 64 right now. I could go a bit faster, perhaps up to 70 on this stretch of line. In fact, I'm going to speed up a bit. Why not? Then I'll slow down when I get to Huddersfield. But yeah, so I'd have to, if I wanted the 52 the old way, I'd have to buy West Somerset Railway. Keep in mind, West Somerset Railway comes with the Class 09, which is... it's just as uninteresting to me as the Class 08 is. Also comes with the Class 47, albeit in a different livery, and it does look a bit nicer than the one that I've got from Northern Transpennine, but again it's a train that I technically already have. So I'm getting another 2 trains I basically already have, with a route that I don't want to drive on. And if I do drive on that route, I'm going to be breaking the speed limit every single time, because I'll just get tired of driving at 28 miles an hour. It's probably a nice route to drive on as well. I might look into it, okay, I'll consider it, but at the same time, to get the 52, I'd be spending less money. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention, some locomotives, well, all of them, all the DLC locomotives, which the 52 was originally, you can't get until you've got the route that's appropriate for it. I'm going to have to slow down quite sharpish, aren't I? Take off. Sorry for the full service braking, but gonna have to slow down quite a bit. Quite sharp. I should have seen that coming. I've got no excuse for not seeing it coming. The brakes do stay on for a bit on this one. Come on, work past the brakes. There you go. So, yeah, the route you'd have to go before, you'd have to get West Somerset Railway, which would be £20. Because it is only a relatively short route, and I think they understand that it's got less value because of the lower speed limit. So that's £20, and then there's £11.49, I think, for the Class 52. So I would have had to spend, well, £31 just to go that route, and I get a route that I don't want, really, just to get a train that I want to drive. So it is cheaper to pay £15 and get the Class 52 in the Diesel Legends pack. However, I'm still getting 2 things that I don't really want, because I've kind of got them already. So that stinks. But you never know. I mean, I might pick it up at some point. We're stopping at Huddersfield, by the way. She's here. Albeit everyone's going to have to get out of the train in the cold, wet rain, but it's alright. They're AIs, does it really matter? Can probably turn the wiper speed down a little bit. It's 7:39. Yeah, 7:39. Which means that the trains leaving Leeds, well, hopefully are on their way. There's one there, but I don't know. Yeah, that's not come from Leeds. Leeds is all the way over here. And they are leaving it, it's just the fact that they have to stagger themselves to get out. I've kind of tried to artificially stagger them to leave Leeds at a time that really suits me. Oh, one stopped at Morley, that's nice. And any more for any more? No, I think Morley's about the furthest it's reached at this point. Ooh. 50's fast enough for the wiper, well, fine, 75. But I will take a small break. I will stop the engine. There we go. And I will essentially just be right back. Enjoy the scenery. When I come back, I'll let you know. Alright, I returned. Good, good. Right. We have to start it back up again. Come on we go. There we are. Very good. Right, brakes are coming off. Can't really move until they do come off. Because they are quite strong things. Well, they need to be to stop something like this. Anyway. I was mentioning, well, after the stream, after I finished this request, welcome to Trains in the, well, welcome Gundam Yeen, who is, Lucifer, welcome. You suggested this. We have been going for 43 minutes, pretty much. We left Manchester at 7:05 in-game. It's now 7:43. But the good news is, you missed my long rant about an upcoming DLC for this game, and how I'm very unlikely to buy it. However, this is what you've chosen, of course. And the good news is I do like driving the Class 43, and we're driving it in a interesting place. It's pretty much my county where I live. It's Yorkshire, innit? Yeah, we're heading all the way to Leeds, where I obviously live. However, I technically live closer to one of the stations that we won't be stopping at. We'll be passing it, but still, we're going past it, so I'll point it out when we get there. And once I finish doing this request, I will go ahead and do something in the timetable mode, which will hopefully be also interesting. Just to note, I have told everyone else, but you can post questions and things in the comments. You don't need to hold back really, because all my content is marked for adults, not kids. Choo-choo. Indeed, choo-choo. Eventually one day they will try and put choo-choo trains in the game, in other words steam trains, which will be interesting. But as for when that's going to happen, nobody knows. Probably a long time in the future, because they need to optimize it to work on consoles, and obviously next gen might be able to handle whatever comes its way. I have a PS4, so that's the previous generation to what we've got now. But to be honest, who's got the next generation of consoles? Never seen anyone in my life with a PS5, and to be honest, I don't really see the point. I don't know how much more powerful a PS5 is than a PS4. I don't know. It doesn't really look like much, to be honest. Oh, 395. I've just realised I haven't used the horn. There it is. So, next stop is Dewsbury in 5.1 miles. Is it? Yeah, pretty much. And then it's just finishing at Lincoln. My friend is considering selling his because his wife wasn't happy that he blew money on one during release. It's PS5. So that is generally the consensus for most release consoles, to be brutally honest. I didn't buy my PS4 at release. In fact, I got my PS4 about 4 years after PS4 actually released. No. Didn't get it that late, but I bought it after it released, basically when it was in a state that was playable, shall we say. because a lot of consoles do have problems at launch. Why would I get a PS5 when I can get more stuff for building Gunpla? Gunpla? Oh, Gundam. Right, okay. He'd be selling it for MSRP plus taxes he paid for it. He's not a scalper. MSRP, right. Yeah. Well, to be honest, I don't think... I mean, buying consoles at launch is a bit risky. And I don't think it's necessarily worth it. In fact, I don't think the price tag, normally MSRP, is worth it anyway. I mean, my PS4 is still usable. I'm pretty sure that I could play this game on PS5. Because, you know, they've said that they're going to be doing... They're going to still let you play PS4 games on PS5. At least most of them, I think. I don't know, there's probably some caveat there somewhere. But I'm pretty sure they'll be able to play this on PS5 because it says that. It says it can be played on it. The only thing is that I can't afford a PS5. And I don't really want one. And there's probably never going to be a day when I want one because I'm 20 years old right now. I will be 21 in April. And when I eventually do get a job that's going to take up most of my time, I probably will not be interested enough to pay that much money on a console I'll barely use. That doesn't mean I'll just stop playing games, obviously, but it does mean that I'll be playing them a heck of a lot less. Thank you, DFD. I'm just going to wait. I'd love to play Resident Evil Village. Resident Evil Village? Is that a thing? Okay. It sounds interesting. I mean, I've never played a Resident Evil game before, but it does sound nice. But I can sit a bit before doing so. I recommend that. Because it's not just consoles that have problems at launch, it's also games. There was a time in gaming history that probably everyone here who's watching can remember, where games existed on a disc, and what was printed on the disc is what you're going to get. Thanks for turning the speed limit down very suddenly. Oh, we're passing Ravensthorpe, so we're not that far, really. Yeah, there was a time where what you got on the disc was what you got. And now I think companies just rely on updates, digital updates for all their games, because that fixes problems that exist. But I think that because they can do that, they've kind of let themselves slip a bit and just allow things to have problems with this idea that it's alright, we can fix it later. BR 146 just passed, but I think they just let them have more problems because they can fix it later. We'll just get onto this side, it's less noisy. But yeah, it is a shame. This game likely had a lot of issues at launch. And I didn't get it at launch. I didn't get the original Train Sim World at launch, and I didn't get the sequel, which I'm playing now, at launch. That's because I kind of didn't know that Train Sim World 2 existed until I saw it being played by someone else, and I thought, really, there's a sequel? Yes, there is. So I picked it up and I haven't looked back. Another Class 43 passing by. Right. Gotta make sure I actually stop. You think I've gotten the hang of it by now, but... There we are. See, I don't think anyone really wants to get on, but that's okay. And the stuff after this will be Leeds, finally. And then we will play something in timetable mode, probably with the Class 465 because that's new. And I like driving it as well. Yeah. Am I rolling it? No, I'm not rolling. For a moment it looked like I was. Lock the doors. All good. Wait for the brakes to come off. And all is well in the world. Streaming for 54 minutes. Right. So, I imagine piloting a train in real life would be nerve-wracking for someone like me. In many ways, driving a train is remarkably simple. It's not a case of this game makes it look easy, because it really is kind of like this in real life as far as I can tell. Train drivers are not bundles of nerves. They're usually very calm and collected people, because it's not driving a train in real life. There is a bit of a difference between what I'm doing and what a real train driver would have to do. In the game you can set it to be without a heads-up display, meaning that you have to check the signals yourself and look at the speed limits. The speed limits on this track, this route, are a bit difficult to see. They are embedded into the side of the track, and they're little metal, probably plastic or metal or something, numbers with the speed limit on. The only problem is that you can't really see them. At least I can't see them. I've been looking everywhere for them and I can't see them. So the little metal cutouts that have spikes in them to go into the ground, and then you look at them and then you go whatever speed it says on that. The only problem is you can't really see them. So this route just pretty much involves you learning what the speed limits are by the game telling you, and then you run it yourself without the heads-up display on. Now I cannot do that. I think that was a speed limit thing back there, but I don't know. I'm going a bit too fast to see it. But so I can have the game sit here and tell me what the next signal is. You can see it up there, it's green in 0.7 miles. The game will tell you what it is if you have that set to on. It'll also tell you the speed limit. It's marked by that red dot on the speedometer. Really? I didn't do that, someone else did that. That's nice of you, game. It shouldn't have done that. It really shouldn't have done that. It shouldn't. But it did. Oh dear. That was probably one of the AI trains causing that problem. Very nice. I'll pick it up where I left off. Because I am doing this. I'm persistent. I don't really like giving up. 755 pretty much. And we start from Batley, platform 1 to Leeds, blah 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 blah. I don't like... Can actually get the high-speed train from this. How nice. Right. The issue is, it's likely that an AI train passed a signal at red. Now I can't explain why, because I deliberately set it up so that no AI trains would be going to the same station. But I think that maybe I would have to... I think I need to put a little bit more thought into how I design things, because that really shouldn't have happened. Really shouldn't have. However, because I'm persistent, I'll just do it again. Not all again, but I'm starting from Batley, which is the closest station to where where it went wrong. Please be advised that it wasn't actually my fault. That's the important thing. And we do actually have rain effects on the window, which is nice. Wipers are on. Headlights, I'll set them to night because rules and regulations. And what else do I need? Gauge dimmer, fine. It's there, not there. Why am I going backwards? Oh, because we're on an incline, are we? Like most of West Yorkshire, I'm on a bloody hill. Every single time. Like I said before, you're always pretty much on a hill over here. It's either you're on a hill, or I don't know, you're in space or something, because everything is just a hill. Is it on or is it off? Isolated, it's on. I don't know, we'll see. Right, we will set off again. Right, where was I? Talking about train driving. So usually real life train drivers are calm and collected people. It's probably because they realise at the end of the day, it's, to a certain extent, there's only a few things you really need to take notice of. Because this is pretty much exactly like driving a real train. The only difference is I don't have to look out for the signals because the game is, you can select it to tell you. You can select it to tell you what the speed limit is, and it is quite likely in real life you would eventually, just from looking at a map of something, you could probably work out what the speed limit was wherever you were, based on what you've just passed. But because the game can make it easy for you, I just go with the make it easy for me option. I think there was a speed limit back there, a little sign thing. But yeah. The only information you need to take heed of is what is the signal in front of me telling me. And it just depends on where you are in the world. In the UK, at least, I know that green definitely means go. A single yellow signal means, well, a double yellow signal, which is the first one you'll encounter after when you need to stop. That means the next block is clear, but you should probably think about slowing down, be prepared. Then when it's a single yellow, the next block will be, you know, a red signal, which means you must stop. Then a red obviously means you must stop before you pass it, because it means that there is a train in the next block ahead of you. So signals are divided into blocks, at least in the UK. Stretches of rail line, and if there's a train on it, the system will basically pick up that there is a train on the section of track in front of you, and then the signal will react accordingly to what that information is. So the important thing is just look for a signal, manage your speed, and it's a light on. It was, so I just flicked it on and off. Yeah, take notes of signals, watch your speed. That's it for a train. Because it doesn't really matter at the end of the day, because you are going in a straight line. It is very likely that somebody has already changed the points for you up ahead if you need to switch to another track. That's really the only thing that's remotely cerebral about it. Just changing the points on the track, then manoeuvring around yards, that's really the only thing. Now, freight hauling is probably a lot more intuitive, but for passenger hauling, generally speaking, use the throttle, use the brakes, watch your speed, look for signals. That is really it. And that's pretty much all I do, and it's pretty much all real train drivers do. But that doesn't mean that they're not paying attention. Trains have a lot of safety systems to make sure that the driver is paying attention. A train will pester the driver if it needs to. By the way, we just passed Morley Station, and I'm currently living just beyond those houses in real life, so I just passed myself. I can see this rail line. I used to go down here and see the rail line. I used to watch trains going up and down, just for fun. I know I sound like a boring person, but that's what I used to do as a kid, and I used to enjoy going down here and looking. But yeah, train driving isn't for everyone. In many ways it's probably a very boring, because if you pay attention to what I'm doing, you'll notice that I'm only really operating the throttle and the brake occasionally. Most of the time I'm either leaving it on or leaving it off and coasting, which is what that's called. Coasting is you know, letting off the throttle and letting the train just roll under its own momentum. That's to save fuel and energy consumption and all of that. It's also a bit better because otherwise you'd just be braking, accelerating all the time, so it's a bit more relaxed for you. Unless you're going down a hill, in which case you're going to be gaining speed like I am now, so it's not a get out of jail free card. We'll have to do something. I think we just passed one of the fallen trees. I'm not going to go clear up because I can't stop it. I don't know whether I can be bothered going along the entire railway line, clearing up fallen trees as collectibles. Probably not, because it would involve me driving at quite low speeds to go and watch out for them. There's another one there, I think. There is a video guide, but are you passing by cows or am I just tired? Cows? Cows? They have sheep. Cows. Where are you seeing these cows? There shouldn't be any cows here. This is all warehouses and industrial areas, but I keep thinking some four-legged creatures are by the railroad at certain parts. Oh, right. No, they shouldn't be they shouldn't be that close. I'd be quite worried if they were that close. I am speeding. They do have cows and sheep, I believe, in the game. But they really shouldn't be that close to the railway line. You guys are tired, lol. I'm not, but then again I only woke up about, what, 3 hours ago? I mean, there might be. I don't know, next time I'm around on this route I'll look, but they shouldn't be that close to the line. There should be fences stopping them. What is that reflection in the raindrops? Anyway, pulling into Leeds now. Almost there. I am speeding, but I don't want to go at 10 miles an hour through here. Right, almost. I'm gonna stop early. Turn it off. Finally reached Leeds. Fantastic. All good. And then I will go for a small break, and then when I come back we'll do something in timetable mode. That didn't really take 12 minutes, because an AI train decided to pass the signal at danger. Fantastic. But I will be right back. Okay, I've returned. I've completed your requests. I miss you already. Lol. I'm back. I've completed Lucy's request, so that means I will do a service in Southeastern High Speed, which is the most recent DLC that I've got, and I'll use the Class 465, which is this thing, which is fantastic. Should I do a long journey or a shorter one? Well, first of all, what's the weather gonna be? We can have rain, snow, we can have it at all seasons, and I can customize it exactly. You know, I can have it snowing if I wanted to. I know lots of people like snow. snow, rain, just sunshine. Anything you'd like, I will do it like that. Let me know. I can also do a longer journey or a shorter one, just depending on how we're feeling. Whilst you decide, I'll go and get a drink of coffee, because I like coffee. I will be right back, and probably should have done that before I came back, but I'll leave you guys to decide what weather's going to be like. Either snow, rain, sunshine, whatever you prefer. Right, I'm back. Sunshine, you say? Right, because we've had rain before, right. We'll have summer clear. Nice. And I'll pick one that I haven't done at a time in the evening, why not? Might be better to do spring clear. Pick one where it's going to be from Gray's End to Rainham, was it? Not too far. And my temperature is good. I check that every so often to manage my... Anyway, we are going on Southeastern High Speed in the evening sort of time. Class 465 here. It says Raynham, that's where we're going. Because that's set automatically. And master key. Reverser. There we go. I think a lot of you probably won't have seen this one before, this train. There's probably going to be a tunnel ahead, so I'll put the cab light on. Horn, headlights to... I'll set them to night because it's a bit dark. AWS on. Nice. DSD I'll leave off because it's a bit annoying. Train lights off now. Don't want that one. Auxiliary heat. There's a clipboard light if you want that. Wait until 1840 and 30. Very nice. And I think that's everything for right now. Lock the doors, and off we go. Oh my, I love the 465. It's fantastic, it sounds brilliant. The sounds were very well done by the team, fantastic. I have heard people say, I only picked some because I'm sick of snow and rain around here too. That's fine. I mean, we get quite a bit of rain, but mostly it's just been a bit cloudy lately. So, Class 465 I'm driving is produced by Metro Camel, which is a company that operates... used to build trains in Birmingham, I believe. And Metro Camel produced the 465. But also, another manufacturer made the 465 as well. ABB York and Brell. So ABB York, obviously based in York in England, and also Brell, which is British Rail Engineering Limited, back when British Rail was still a thing. That was a long time back, about the late 1980s, the early 1990s. And then the British Railway network was re-privatised again, because it had been about 40-50 years before that. I've talked about the history of British railways in general before, but essentially the point is that this is the Metro Camel version, and it has the motors that make it kind of sound like a Formula 1 car going up the gears as you're accelerating from a standstill. I'm also using regenerative braking. Regenerative braking, I only learned what that was after looking it up. I wasn't exactly sure what it meant, however I've now realised what it does mean. Regenerative braking is essentially braking by causing the motors to reverse in on themselves. And what that means is the polarity of the motors basically reverses. So the motors spin the other way, as opposed to the way they're spinning now, which is to carry us forward. And it uses that to essentially slow us down. But whilst it's doing that, it also generates electricity just by doing that. So when it does that, it goes back into the railway network. So you obviously have the third rail on that side at the moment. That's how we're getting the power to power the train. It's electric. But when the regenerative braking comes in, it will produce electricity and it goes back into the actual rail itself. And it's debatable on whether or not it's a useful thing as far as saving the environment and you know, reducing energy consumption goes. It does improve it quite a bit by about, they're cut by about 30%. Energy consumption in general, fuel consumption is cut by about 30% when you're using regenerative braking, pretty much. And the electricity goes back into the rail itself to be used by other locomotives. However, the only problem is that if the current is not being drawn by the rail at that time, it doesn't really go back into the system. It just gets wasted. So the point that they made by introducing regenerative braking, most modern trains have it and do it automatically, just set normally. This one just has two options. You can either use the dynamic brake, which is like the brakes on a car where it clamps around the wheel to slow it down, and then you've got the regenerative braking, which is what I'm using now. And you'll notice when we start really slowing down, the motors actually reverse in on themselves to slow you down. So it's a good system, and it's a good idea on metro networks like the New York subway or the London Underground or things like that. It's a good idea there because trains stop often enough to put more power back into the system, and it reduces energy costs, really. Though modern 465s that operate on this network do not really have it anymore. I think what they did at some point was they decided to take regenerative braking out of the trains in their fleet, and I didn't really let you listen to the motor sounds there. Sorry about that. I'll let you listen to it when we set off, stop at the next station. But yeah, that's the point. Regenerative braking is a good idea in theory, but it's not really used too often anymore. This is the speed set option, where I can set the top speed artificially, and the train will carry on accelerating up to that speed on its own. And it only works with regenerative braking on, so I can do it in a moment. What's the speed limit going to be? About 70, right. You know, while I'm driving this, I often just look on the outside of the train to hear the motor. That noise. That's the best part. Just hearing that. Into a tunnel. Next stop is Strood, but... And now I've set the speed setter to... The train is basically now on automatic. Technically on autopilot. I set the speed to be 70 and the train will go up to 70, but it won't go past it. Because it's using regenerative braking to actually keep you at that speed. You'll notice that we don't actually go over 70 miles an hour unless we're going down an incline. 375 there. So that's a good thing, but according to what I've heard, modern 465s, when drivers use them, if they do have regenerative braking, they tend not to use it. Some drivers still do, obviously, but in the regulations it says you're not really supposed to use it. However, I'm in a video game, it doesn't matter. So it's a bit strange to me why they'd have a system in place but they don't use it. It's fitted with it, but drivers don't really use it anymore. That's a bit strange. Worth noting this train is very, very nice to drive. Really nice indeed. Though I do have to slow down, which I can do very simply. I might open the window just so you can hear it running along. Oh. 375 going past again. So, what else? Oh yeah. So, yes, the Metro Camel version has these motor sounds that you can hear on this train. The Brel and ABV versions of the train don't have the same sound. In fact, those trains kind of sound a bit not very nice. Other trains kind of sound like they're screaming with the motors running, and this one is more like an F1 car accelerating up, which is a lot more pleasant to listen to. So there's differences between the two models. The main difference is that the vents are in a different place, and also the buffers at the front are a different shape between the two different manufacturers' models. But other than that, they are pretty much identical. In this game we got the Metro Camel version, which is good because I wouldn't have enjoyed it as much if it was the ABB version. And now you can hear the motors slowing it down. The only thing I don't really like about the sounds in this game is to be brutally honest, I don't know whether trains should make noises like this when they're kind of screeching and scraping on the wheel, on the tracks. I don't think they should really make that noise. Whenever I've seen a train stop nearby going slow enough, they don't really make that much noise, I don't think. But it is what it is, it's not exactly deafening me or anything. Right, now you can hear the motor sounds. Don't really know how to describe that sound, but it's there. It's how it's supposed to be. People are actually getting on here at Strood. Nice evening sky, and obviously we've got a lot to see around us. I'll sit here with the camera because I can move that around. So, any questions that anybody's got? I like an active chat. In fact, the chat for when Dovetail developers are actually doing a stream, they did one yesterday. Yeah, the chat in when they're doing a stream, the developers, for example, which they don't really do super often, but when they do, it's always nice. They do one every Wednesday. They do the door. I don't think the door is supposed to open at speed, but it may be supposed to be like that by design. I don't know. I guess not, because it sounds a bit unsafe. Yeah, the developers do a stream called Workshop Wednesday Wednesday, and that's for Train Simulator, which is a different game than this. Also, before I forget, there is a submarine over there. A real one, you can kind of see it there. And that does exist in real life. It is really moored on the River Medway in Kent. It's owned by somebody privately, somebody bought it. And it is a Soviet Union era Russian submarine. Exactly how they found it, I do not know. I think it might have been surrendered over to the British because it was off the coast of the United Kingdom when the Soviet Union fell through in 1992? 1991 or 1992. And then it was snapped up by a private buyer. Currently it's undergoing restoration. It's quite a long restoration actually. It's a bit of a dilapidated state. It's something Black Widow is what it's called. It's not officially going to be called that. It's not officially called that because Russians don't call their submarines with the prefix U. That's a German thing. That's a German World War II U-boat thing. And I believe we as the British are kind of a bit no, it's a U-boat because World War II and Germany. But no, it's a submarine, and Russian submarines never began with designations beginning with the letter U. That's a German thing, so U456. German U-boats were named U something, which is interesting enough. If you don't want me to rattle on about Second World War, Battle of the Atlantic, German U-boat things, I won't. However, if you allow me to rattle on, I will. Yeah. So, where was I before? Yeah, Dovetail developers do streams every Wednesday because they do it for Train Simulator, which is a separate franchise but also the same thing because it's also a train simulation game. It's a lot older than this one. It's got probably a lot more content for it because it's been going years, and I think you can use older content in the newer editions of the game. There's one every year pretty much, and I think that gets the most development time generally. Graphical quality on that is lower than this, much lower. In fact, graphical quality on Train Simulator in general is like PS2 era, PS2 early PS3 at the most kind of detail. Train Sim World gets the best detail and the best graphical quality, but it doesn't get a lot of content for it. It doesn't get a lot of attention relative to Train Simulator. Or at least it feels that way. And they also do streams when they are showing upcoming content, so they'll show a first look if something is upcoming and coming out in the next week or two, and then they'll do a launch day stream on it. They also do streams for their roadmaps to tell you what sort of things are coming up and answer questions. Those usually run for about 2 or 3 hours, and I do watch all of them pretty much except Workshop Wednesday, because Workshop Wednesday it's unrelated to me because I don't own Train Simulator for the PC. I don't have a PC that can run that. Would be nice in the future maybe if I could do that, but because the graphical quality on this is so good, it feels like a significant downgrade to me, I think. .375 going past. There we go. So, Fun times all round. And when they do a stream, I watch, normally. And I watch it for the full amount of time. I may skip ahead occasionally, but yeah, I do watch them. And they have quite a nice team doing all the streams. They've got Matt, they've got Sam. I like Sam and Matt, I think they're brilliant, both of them. Matt is an interesting character. He's got some headphones that have pink cat ears on them, which is strange, but well, strange relative to how he looks. He looks like your typical office drone guy. He's relatively old. I think he's in his 30s or 40s. Wears glasses. He's quite. He's not fat, but he's a big chap compared to me. So it just looks a bit strange and surreal to see a guy like that with pink cat ear headphones. But you know what? That doesn't matter to me. He does a very good job at managing those streams. He plays the game. You know, he plays the game as he has a hand in developing. And he actually explains things a lot better than, well, if you ask a railway expert, and I'm being very serious now, I've said it before, but if you want to know anything about the railways, do not ask a railway expert, because railway experts will prattle on for 7 hours before they finally get to the point that you wanted to hear. If you ask, for example, I don't know, when did this particular train enter service, or something like that. Oh, I've lowered my speed quite a bit. 550. Don't ask a railway expert, and I know of one that is in the fandom. I'm not going to tell you who he is, but just don't ask them. Don't ask a railway expert anything about the railway, because they'll prattle on for 7 hours. Difference is with me, I don't. I just answer your question if I know the answer. If I don't know it, I'll say I don't know it. But yeah, Sam and Matt are the best out of the team, in my opinion, I think, for doing streams. Natalie is good, she does a good job as well. She makes it really entertaining. And I don't know anyone else on the team. Adam is one of the team leaders who sits in on the roadmap streams and explains more things. Sam is basically there. He's kind of the dog's body of the group. He doesn't really do any developing himself. He's just there to tell you information and read the chat out for whoever's hosting the stream. You know. He also does play the game himself casually. And you always know with him it's probably going to go a bit wrong at some point. But it's fun. I like sitting in and watching them. Alright then. You go ahead and get in my way, other train. Get in the way of my camera. I am going late to every one of these stops, but I don't care. Doesn't matter. I'm not playing for gold or points or anything like that. Yeah. As I said, big topic change. German U-boats began with the prefix U. And were essentially submarines. They were submarines and boats at the same time, and usually they were submarines, to try and hide from everybody. They are quite impressive, considering what they are and how old they are. First U-boats I think came around in the First World War, and then obviously Germany lost that and essentially began building everything to do with the war effort, to do with the Second World War in secret. By in secret they did it technically blatantly, but also there wasn't enough legislation to stop them from doing that. What they ended up doing was they commissioned other uh, manufacturers in other countries to produce things that they wanted. For example, they usually went to Switzerland or Austria, or basically countries that were near Germany but not actually Germany, because the Treaty of Versailles only... Is it the Treaty of Versailles? Yes, it is. Treaty of Versailles only banned things being produced in Germany that were remotely military-like. So they decided to commission other countries, other manufacturers in other countries to produce the things that they wanted, because technically they could legally get away with that. For example, a lot of German World War II equipment was made by a Swiss company, I believe they're Swiss, called Rheinmetall. A lot of the machine guns were made by Rheinmetall, not actually Germans. Things like the MG34 and MG42, which if you played any Call of Duty at all, you'll know what those are straight away and how they sound. And yeah, I could. Do I deviate or do I not deviate? So a lot of them were built by companies that weren't actually based in Germany, and that's how they got away with it, building so many things for the war effort. They also cheated the German people out of money, because what they used to do, there was a time, if you know the history of the Volkswagen Beetle, which is obviously a car, you'll know it wasn't originally called the Volkswagen Beetle. It was actually designed by Dr. Ferdinand Porsche, who, yes, is the same Porsche that produces, that is the same company behind things like the Porsche 911. So the modern company Porsche was around at that time, run by Dr. Ferdinand Porsche, who did design the Volkswagen Beetle. The reason why it was designed is, first of all, it was a complete con to the German people. In Nazi Germany, there were still technically rations going on at that time. So they had rations, and then what you do is you collected a coupon or a sort of stamp every so often. You'd be given a stamp, and then you show that stamp to the shopkeeper. He gives you whatever you ask, so for the value of that stamp. But then the German government said, if you collect some of those stamps and you deliberately don't spend... Oh dear, slow down please. I think I've stopped, yeah? I think we finished this service. But if you collect so many of these stamps every month, by the way, that means that you're cheating yourself out of money, because these stamps are worth money. If you give us so many a month, you save up these stamps. After a while, if you don't miss a single payment of a stamp, you can have your own car. So you can have what was at the time the equivalent of the Volkswagen Beetle. It wasn't actually called the Volkswagen Beetle, it was called the Crafter Freude something something something. Crafter Freude in Germany means Crafter Freude, strength through suffering, or strength through something, some kind of strange terminology that doesn't make any sense, right? But yeah, and they said, oh, you can have your own car if you collect these stamps and you don't worth money, and then after a while what you can do is you can trade it in for your own car. And a lot of German people thought that this was great, because in Germany they didn't really have a lot of money. So they decided, I'd like my own car and I'd like to go and by the way, I'm going to do another service, because why not? Let me look at East Coast Way and see. not timetable. Don't know, it's class 47. Suppose I could do the class 47. Oh, there's only one. Okay, I'll do this one then. I'll try and do it. But then, just before the war broke out, 1939, when they decided that it was a great idea to attack Poland, and then everybody else who was allied with Poland decided to go and kick their asses, which is how eventually the British got involved. The Germans had actually, the government at the time, the Nazi government, had actually been spending all that money on weapons of war. So all the stamps that people saved up, all the money, the value of that was actually being devoted to weapons of war, rather than actual cars. They built a large holiday camp for people, all for lots of camps across Germany. And they wanted to give this impression that eventually German life is going to be fantastic, and you're going to be able to go on holiday to these lovely places. They even had nudist camps, they had tennis, they had everything, swimming pools, all of that. And they said one day you're all going to be able to go on holiday in these places. Actually, they built them to create the impression that they were going to fulfill that promise. They didn't, obviously, because they're evil bastards. And yes, they tricked the German public into giving them a load of money to make these weapons of war. And people only realised that when war broke out and they didn't get the car they were promised. Now, that's the origin of the Volkswagen Beetle. But the Volkswagen Beetle was... it's not the same thing, it's not exactly the same thing. So, the reason why we even have the Volkswagen Beetle, the design of it, is... hang on. The design of it is based upon the design for the, obviously the Crafter Freude wagon, the car that the Germans were going to promise people. And it was found in a bombed out factory in Berlin by a British sergeant or colonel. So, in the latter stages of the war, Germany was being bombarded almost every single day, both by the Russians and the British, pretty much, on the European front. That was, by the time America was pretty much busy either helping with the sort of Normandy invasion, you know, Battle of the Bulge and all that, but also in the Pacific as well against the Japanese. But the British and the Russians were basically hitting the Germans from both sides, and that is why a lot of Germany was actually destroyed, especially the cities. And in a bombed out factory they found one of the original cars that they had promised the German people. Why am I not going anywhere? Strange. Release the brakes? Yeah, it should be released. Might take a while. Ah, we are moving. Oh! So you want to get in there first, mate, do you? Alright. Right. Sorry about this. Yeah. Probably gonna have to sit here and wait a while the 377 goes forward. Or actually I'll do something else, because this will just annoy me, waiting. Then the British colonel or sergeant or whoever discovered the car, and it was relatively undamaged, and then decided this is a good design, and then Volkswagen was formed, and then they produced the Beetle, which is actually technically a car designed by Nazi Germany and used to con people out of money. Does that make any sense to you guys? I hope so. That's the origin story of the Beetle. Now did I deviate or did I not deviate? I don't think I deviated from that. I could have done at some point. Keys, no, let's do Great Western Express. Timetable. We'll have the snow in this thing. Well, quite a bit of snow, because why not? Yep. Brilliant. Fantastic. We will do... Worcester... This one. Did everyone like that story? Because the deviation I was going to make is about German World War II machine guns. Specifically the MG42. MG42s are terrifying to troops, or at least they were. And there is a story written by a stock soldier in the British Army who did come up against a MG42. Obviously a lot of people did. But obviously he was heading towards a position. And all of a sudden the Germans open fire on him with an MG42, which sounds like... if you've got a jacket or something, it sounds like a zipper. It sounds like a zipper being undone really quickly. Which is a terrifying sound, considering that it's a zipper but it's also loud enough to cause sonic booms, like miniature sonic booms, because that's what bullets do. Bullets that aren't subsonic cause sonic booms, which is why they're so loud. But anyway, we're in Paddington right now, we're going. Train lighting on. Headlights on. Day. Yeah, day please. There. And then he comes up against an MG42, which at the time people thought was, that's it, you're dead, because it fires so many rounds a minute that it's very, very likely that one of them is going to hit you. However, the story goes, and this is a story written by somebody, this isn't exactly a fact, he could be exaggerating it a bit, but according to him they opened fire on him once, immediately he hit the deck, he was in a little ditch, and the Germans could see him, as in they could physically see him and aim at him, and he thought, right, this is it for me, I'm dead. The Germans fire a full belt of ammunition into him, or at him, not a single bullet hit him, because the MG42, as terrifying as it is a bit crap as a weapon, because it jumps around, and because it jumps around, it's not very accurate, so they spent an entire belt of ammunition shooting at him. So the Germans were understandably confused, because they thought he should be dead, because we've just fired, I don't know, 250 rounds at him, and we can see him, he's close enough for us to see, so therefore we should have hit him. So they load up the machine gun again, and fire another belt at him, and it didn't hit him, again. The guy's still in the ditch right now, he's wondering what the hell's happening, he's wondering how he isn't dead yet. So the Germans load up another belt of ammunition, and by that time his squad mates had already caught up with him, and they obviously either killed or captured the Germans, I don't remember. Because I think that just shows a bit how not very good MG42s were. They were very good at scaring the shit out of soldiers, but they were very terrible at actually hitting anything. I don't mean to sound like a bit of an English patriot, but what the British had in their machine gun arsenal library thing They had a Bren gun. Bren guns are fantastic. I think even Americans admit Bren guns are brilliant, because with a Bren gun you can actually hit what you're aiming at. And Bren guns use .303 British ammunition, which is the same ammunition that's in a Lee Enfield rifle. And Lee Enfield rifles are very bloody good, and they're also very good at killing things. I do believe a .303 British round is enough to kill a very large animal. So you can imagine what would happen if you fire that at a person. But Bren guns have a 30 round magazine, usually, of .303 British rounds. Each one is rifle caliber. Rate of fire on a Bren gun is relatively slow, but with a Bren gun they were often fired from the hip and they could actually hit what they were aiming at. Usually they'd send men in with Bren guns into close quarters, you know, rooms where they thought that people were in. They send a guy in with a Bren gun, bang, 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 they're all gone. And they usually send them to kind of clear the way. Look at the snow. Yes, I'm going on about all this history and everyone's just saying, look at the snow. The snow's very nice. I do like driving in the snow. The only problem is in scenario planning mode, you can't actually set it to snow because it defaults to summer with the weather, so that's a bit crap. But in timetable mode, yeah, I can drive in the snow, it's just timetable mode is more limited with what I can do. I have to drive what the game prescribes to me, basically. I'm free to choose whatever service it gives you a list of them, but yeah, it's more restricted. Anyway, I've been going on about history for a while. Don't know what World War II history has to do with trains. Probably has nothing to do with it. Yeah, hardly have anything to do with it. However, we are in a Class 166 diesel multiple unit, and it's quite loud. Very loud indeed. Although I will say, I don't know why it's put us in the fast lane. This is technically the fast lane of the railways. 125 mile an hour top speed, however, the Class 166 can't do 125 miles an hour, it only does 90, but still. I don't know why it's put us in the fast line, because the slow line has a maximum speed limit of 90, specifically for this, so I don't know why they didn't use that one, but it's based on real life, I'm assuming that it's correct. Either way, the snow is very pretty. The weather effects in this game are honestly quite impressive for what they are. Okay, it's not perfect. I will say that these trees, because it's winter time, they should be pretty much bare. They should just have no leaves. That's the only real thing that's wrong about this scene. The snow doesn't actually last, doesn't form underneath, because it wouldn't do in real life. They've done that much. However, the trees should be barren, but other than that, I'd say this is pretty good for a game about driving trains, where you'd think the weather doesn't really matter too much, but they've clearly put effort into doing that. They've also put a layer of snow on everything, near enough, including the train itself. So they've done a very good job. I know I said it can do 90. Oftentimes the trains will do slightly more than whatever it says on the speed limit. On the speed limit of the actual train. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the history lessons and recounting stories that may, well, one of them definitely happened, I know the other one not so much. U-boats are quite impressive things though, for what they are. And there are, I think, 2 on display in the UK. Here's something interesting about me, which I'm a bit embarrassed to say. There are some strange things that do terrify me a bit in the real world. There are some strange things that you might think that's unreasonable to be afraid of that. But when I see something that unnerves me, it really does unnerve me. And I've never been more when looking at a picture of a U-boat out of the water on display in the UK, it unnerves me. For some reason the shape of it is a bit... I don't know, it makes me quite frightened of it. I don't know why that is. I don't know why, there's nothing particularly... It's not like it's shaped like a shark or anything like that. It just looks like a boat. Like a submarine. But for some reason, whenever I look at it, it unnerves me. And the same thing with underwater mines, you know, the things that are attached on chains and a balls and a... Well, it's a mine. An underwater mine, where if something hits it, it's going to explode. Same thing with those, because they just look so ominous to me. There are certain species of fish that scare the shit out of me that aren't actually supposed to be that scary. I mean, for example, the basking shark. Basking sharks are big fucking fish, but they are harmless to human beings. However, for some reason I've always been terrified of them. I know it won't eat me. I know exactly what it eats. It eats plankton, it eats krill, small things. Doesn't even have any teeth. It has a big massive mouth, but it doesn't have any teeth. Apparently they're quite graceful creatures and quite docile. They won't actually do anything to harm anybody. But for some reason whenever I see one, it unnerves me so much that I don't want to look at it anymore. I'd be less afraid looking at an actual shark with teeth than a basking shark. For some reason. I'm just a strange person like that. I'm sure you all think I'm a bit silly now, but... yeah. There you go. Take the speed down a bit. And then we'll make our stop at Slough soon. So yeah, there's that. Wonder if anyone else is afraid of strange things. Right, go on then, more World War II history, because why not? German U-boats. At the time when the war broke out, they were using quite a lot of U-boats, and they were using them to sink British merchant ships and things carrying important cargo. This was in short known as kind of the war in the Atlantic, in a way. German U-boats would essentially sneak up on merchant vessels and then sink them. And they were sinking quite a few every single week. In fact, they were sinking so many that the British thought, right, we've had enough of this, we're going to have to do something. And when they did do something, it turned out to be... I can't remember what procedure came first. Can't remember. Right, so eventually the British found out that the Germans were transmitting signals from U-boat to U-boat. They found out that they were using... They just found the frequency. they found out they were transmitting signals, and what they were doing is they were speeding up the signals at very high speed so that you can't actually understand what it is. So it's still in Morse code. It was perfectly understandable because it's Morse code, everyone knew it, but it was sped up so much that it just sounds like a blip. So the British artificially slowed it down and realised that it's Morse code and figured out that it's the U-boats that are sending it. So then what they decided to do was, using their radar technology, which we made at the time, we decided to use that to lock on to German U-boats that were actually sending out signals. German U-boats have to surface to send signals. In fact, it's a very annoying, fiddly procedure. You have to surface the whole ship, so you're now on the surface of the water in a U-boat. They had to get some guy with an aerial, you know, a signal mast, and actually feed it out through the thing with loads of wires, and then put the mast up to send a message. And every time they did that, they were pretty much vulnerable for about, on average, 30 seconds. 30 seconds where they had to stay above the water, because if they did just dive down, all the water would get in through the top hatch. And the British figured out how to attach radar equipment to planes, and when they were doing that, they basically got the radar equipment to lock on to these signals. So what would happen is they usually went to try and attack U-boats at night, because that's when U-boats thought they were really safe, where they couldn't be seen. British British planes locked onto U-boat signals and essentially flew towards them. And when they got really close, they had some lights fitted on the wings. And the lights would follow the location of the signal. So imagine you're on a boat in the middle of the ocean. You can't hear anything, you can't see anything, you think it's all safe, and then all of a sudden, boom, there's two lights focusing directly at you from a British bomber plane that was specially designed for this purpose. And then they used to just shoot the shit out of the U-boats. Now, as a German U-boat pilot, this must have been the most terrifying thing in the world. Can you imagine a giant British bomber plane, we are slipping a bit with the brake, flying at you at 300 miles an hour with two bright lights miraculously focusing on your exact location so they could see you, and also shooting at you and dropping bombs and torpedoes and all of that. You're vulnerable for about 30 seconds. They couldn't dive, so they had to just sit there and quickly put the mast back down to dive again. And this was how we tackled U-boats to begin with. Then the Germans realised what we were doing, that we were locking onto their signal, and so they decided to create a signal jamming system. They stole the idea from the French, they obviously occupied France at the time. They're using a system called METOX. And then the British suddenly stopped hearing these signals. They stopped getting the German U-boat signals because they were using METOX to scramble it and basically jam us from knowing where they were. But then they eventually discovered that, you know, if we can detect their signals, we can also detect the system that's jamming the signals, because that was giving out a signal anyway. So we built a METOX detector which detected the thing that was jamming the signals in the first place, if that makes any sense. However, I remember the Germans were tricked into thinking that we found them some other way. No, we couldn't actually lock onto their signal with METOX. We couldn't really do that. I don't know, there was some kind of thing that we were exploiting to find them again, but they thought it was the equipment that they were using. So they thought, oh, they've locked onto our signal jamming thing. So they've locked onto this piece of equipment that we have. We've got to get rid of them all now. They decided to get rid of them all when that wasn't how we were finding them anyway. If that makes any sense. I can shut up if you want me to, if you're not enjoying the history. Next stop is Reading in 17 miles. Smooth journey, I'm suspecting. Also we're slipping because of snow. Yeah. So U-boats were thwarted once, and then there was basically a race between the British and the Germans. The Germans were always inventing new things to try and get away from us, and we were always inventing new things to try and find them again, like we were doing before. Eventually they caught up, they went ahead quite a bit. They were using Enigma machines at some point in time, but when we cracked the Enigma code, thanks to the lovely people at Bletchley Park, including Alan Turing, who sadly committed suicide because he was dismissed for being gay, like me. I mean, I wasn't dismissed from the military, but I'm saying that he's like me. He's gay, obviously. But he was one of the people at Bletchley Park who cracked it. There were also a lot of women who worked at Bletchley Park, who worked on cracking the code. There were also a lot of people from Poland, for example. Seeking, you know, they sought refuge. They were people that we decided to take in and protect, you know, because Poland has been attacked. And they fled the country and they came here. And they decided to work at Bletchley Park, helping with the cracking of the Enigma code. Which wasn't technically a code, it was more of the process, but we'll gloss over that. Signals were broadcasting code, encrypted by the Enigma machines, but it wasn't actually a code that we were cracking. We worked out how the machines worked, eventually. And, do I tell that story? Fine, I'll tell that story. Enigma machines work by having lots of different dials. Enigma machines have dials in them, about 7. And the way that the Germans used to use them were they had a code book. And these code books were published every month or so. And you would use the code on that day. So, yeah. Because they changed the codes every single day, the code is essentially switching around the dials to different settings. And all these different dials and different combinations brought out a different letter or number every single time. So on one occasion the dials might be set to 1, 7, 4, 3, 5 or something like that. But then on another occasion it could be 2, 8, 1, 6, 6 or something like that. So all of these in combination with each other would produce different results. You know, you'd hit the R key, for example, and it might come out with the letter O. But then on another day, it might turn into an F. Or another day, it might turn into a G. However, but every single time you struck that key, you could press R once and get an O, but if you pressed it again you might get an X. If you pressed it again you might get a B. If you pressed it again you might get a G. So even if you type the same letter over and over and over again in the same piece of code, it will always be a different letter. But what the British started to notice eventually is they noticed that it was never the same letter as what is in the code. So originally they tried to decode German weather forecasts, which were being broadcast by Enigma code anyway. So they tried to fit in words into these weather broadcasts, which were obviously in code. They could pick up the signals, but they couldn't understand them. They tried doing that, and then they noticed eventually, when they got hands on a real Enigma machine, they noticed that whenever... They must have done this for, I don't know, hours to work out. When you press the letter R, you will never get the letter R in return. If you're wondering how these codes were actually decoded, the German, the other Enigma machine that you're sending the message to, you send the message through the radio, it comes through the radio, you write it down. Then what you do is you type in the code the same way. You type it in as it comes to you. Because the dials are set in the exact same position everywhere all around Germany and all throughout the old military organisations, they could press those keys and it would come out with the correct the right message. So if someone typed "Hello, how are you," which they never would have done, but if they did, it might come up as X, B, C, V, a random string of letters. But then if you type in X, C, V, because your dials are in the same place, it will decode what you've just put in. So it will spell it out in German for you to understand. And then eventually we found out that it's never the same letter once, and through that principle we managed to basically decode everything from that. And you're probably wondering, why didn't we just go get the German code books? Well, the problem is that the codes are changed every day. So because the codes are changed so often, by the time we get the book itself with all the codes. By the way, a lot of German ships and military leaders would just intentionally burn or destroy the book when they were being raided or captured. They would just intentionally do that so we couldn't get them, so that no one could get them. But by the time they got back to England to be read by the people at Bletchley Park, they were already out of date, so they were useless. They couldn't tell you what the Germans would be broadcasting tomorrow. They could only tell you what they had broadcasted already, which is useless information, because by that time they've already done the attack that they've signalled to start anyway, so it's pointless. You see what I mean? I bet most of you have fallen asleep by this point. Sorry, I've just been sitting here. I'll do an outside view. There we go. Sorry, I've been ranting for a long time. Right. Slow down a bit. Looking at the snow makes me cold. Oh dear. I do apologise. I'm sure it's not that cold. How cold is it in game, apparently? Let's have a look. I'm sure there was a temperature thing somewhere to tell you how... Speed? No, that's not it. No, there's no temperature readout anywhere. Well, I never... Alright then. But, yeah. Looking at the snow makes you cold. That's unfortunate, but don't worry, I will be ending the stream quite soon. By the way, it is 5:20 in the morning. So, why... If anyone's got any questions about what I've just been prattling on about for ages, please do let me know. If you're just not interested, I'll stop talking about it. I went on many deviations and I don't even remember where I started. Oh well. I'll leave whatever deviations I could have made for another day. Don't know why I've got the, do I need the wipers on? Not really. Now this is a nice view, sort of. Not really. Just barreling along here at such and such speed. Oh look, another one. We're actually passing him by. Hello. There we go. Does this door open? Oh, it's locked. That's good. It shouldn't open while it's moving. Really shouldn't. That's dangerous. But, yeah, that's the whole thing. It's the story. Tonight has been fairly relaxing. It's been nice. This has been quite the long stream, to be honest. 2 hours and 30 minutes. Well, coming up on that anyway. So I'd say that's a decent night's work for me, and hopefully you've all enjoyed it so far. Hopefully you might want to see more stuff in the future. I do still have some more requests to do, but I don't know when I'm going to get around to doing those. I might stream tomorrow, maybe? Tomorrow is a Sunday, right? Yeah, it is, yeah. Tomorrow's a Sunday. And I may or may not stream, you know. Just depends on whether people are available to watch, you know. There's not much point doing a stream if no one's going to watch, because then it might as well just be a pre-recorded thing. If I put full service braking on, it does slip. I think I said this in a previous video, the trains don't like snow. They don't like fine rain, and they don't like snow. You'd think in heavy rain the traction on the rails would be so bad that it would be virtually undrivable. Actually, that's not the case. According to real life train drivers, driving a train in heavy rain is a lot easier than driving it in light rain, because the rain is so heavy that it washes all the water away off the tracks. Me and trains have something in common: we don't like snow. Indeed. They don't enjoy snow because the tracks are cold, and therefore there could be some ice on them, basically. Snow is very fine stuff, and it will cause it to slip, obviously. You've been outside in the ice. It's very slippery. I also realise I haven't turned on AWS. It's one thing I missed, so this whole time we've been driving without that. Doesn't really matter now, we're at the end of the journey, but still, I've only just put it on. So, yeah, they don't like snow and they don't like fine, light rain, because the wheels will slip. And when the wheels slip on a train, it's a bit scary, if I'm honest. It's just a load of energy being put into something that it's not going to get anywhere. So if I put it into braking 3 now, you'll notice it slips. You've got the dials going up and down, and you've also got that thing flashing down there. So trains, to stop them from slipping, do usually have train protection system and TSP, train slip protection. So they have those systems in place, which basically it works like the it works like ABS in a car. ABS will turn on and off the brakes very rapidly when you need to slow down, because otherwise the brakes might stick. So it's kind of the same thing, it's stopping and starting very, very quickly in order to gain some traction to prevent it from just spinning in midair, which it, not in midair, just spinning on the track for no reason. And by doing so, it pretty much makes sure that the train doesn't just roll and slip and slide everywhere. So you do have to actually take notice of that, because they did program real life, well, close to real life physics with regards to traction and such. So if it's very fine rain, then it'll obviously be harder to drive than in very heavy rain. Or if it's snowing like it is now, you obviously see it slips. Usually. But here we are at Reading. 3 minutes later than the game wanted me to really arrive here, but that's okay. And there's some other Class 166s waiting here, ready to do their own duties, because they're controlled by the AI. They've got their jobs to do, and I've got mine. Here's dimmer. It shows you different options. I'll leave the master key on. And we're pretty much done. My engine is quite loud. Or is it there at his engine? I think it's his. Yeah. Well, they don't like snow, they don't like light rain. But otherwise they're pretty good at driving on the rails. Because the rails are, well, the wheels are metal and the tracks are metal. And usually metal on metal is a bad combination. I got a gold medal for that, really? I turned up late. Alright. If you say so, game, I got a gold medal. Alright. I turned up about 3 minutes long, I suppose. Maybe it doesn't do it based on time. Anyway, I do believe that's the end of the stream. After 2 hours and 36 minutes, let's say, we've done a request from somebody, we've also done a timetable thing in Southeastern High Speed. We've also done turn off the bloody rain and snow and all that. We've done all that, and we have had fun, I hope. Right, I shall end the stream in a minute. Thanks everyone for coming, and I'll see you all another time, hopefully soon. See you all later.